Hello everyone, I'm Shannon Cantner and you're watching a special CMSD TV program, Talk to the CEO, featuring District CEO Eric Gordon. We're here in the studio with him for a Q&A discussing district news and updates. In today's episode, we'll talk about the recent state report card, the strategy for the year, and what's ahead for the district. Thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you, Shannon.
You are welcome. All right, so Ohio school districts recently received their new state report cards, and CMSD fared well in progress and growth when compared with its peers across the state. What do you consider to be the major highlights from this report card, and what are you most proud of?
Well, before we get to that, I think we first have to acknowledge we got an F on the report card, and that's not a club that we can continue to be a part of. So I don't ever want to talk about the good news without acknowledging the real challenge. The good news is, though, that there was a lot of progress on this report card. When we think about K through 3 literacy, our school district outpaced 20% of the districts in Ohio. When we think about gap closing, we outpaced 63 other districts in Ohio. Our performance index, which is a test score measure of reading and math primarily, was double the gain that we saw statewide. And our graduation rate hit another record high, making us the 4th fastest improving in the entire state. So there's a lot of real progress, even as we struggle to move from the lowest performing district to what we would consider an appropriately performing district. So that's for the work ahead.
Speaking of the work ahead, the report card also helps chart a course for the future. So how will the results shape strategy this year and beyond?
Well, so the report card really showed us both what we're doing well and what we need to work on. So for example, we know that we're closing gaps in English and mathematics based on the gap closing measure, but our students who are English language learners are not adequately accessing English language and particularly academic language. So we've got to really bear down on that group of kids and make sure they're getting the supports they need. We know that our kids are graduating at record numbers and that Black and Hispanic students graduate at rates higher than their state peers. And yet we know that they're not showing the full level of college readiness that we want them to see. But there's ways we can address that. As a district, we have been one of the early districts to provide the ACT for all students, and we'd give it to them at the beginning of their 11th grade year. Well, you shouldn't be college ready yet by the beginning of your 11th grade year. What if we actually gave it to you again at the close of your 12th grade year and captured the fact that our kids are actually much more college ready than the report card is showing, which is beyond the report card, but actually giving the kid a better trajectory into college after high school too. So we're looking at the report card from those places where by doing some small adjustments to our overall strategy and really staying the course in that strategy, we're going to see big gains.
You spoke about staying the course. Just a week after the report card was released, you delivered the annual State of the Schools address. In it, you compared the report card to Twitter use and later cited that old saying that Rome was built in a day. So can you talk to us about those themes and explain that a little bit?
Well, I think most people in Ohio don't realize that the report card is 34 pages long. They see page 1, right? And I would, said page 1 is essentially the Twitter of the report card. It's 80 characters to try to convey this very complex message. And what I was trying to ask us to do is look beyond the first 80 characters and look at the whole report card. So the first 80 characters, as I said earlier, is we are an F, and we have to own that and we have to acknowledge it. But the other 33 pages showed us a whole lot of progress that doesn't immediately show up in an 80 character message. And then we turned at the end of the speech to Rome wasn't built in a day. And I was really clear about, and people actually said, oh, now he's comparing himself to Rome. I actually chose Rome very particularly because we don't say, oh, Geneva wasn't built in a day. Oh, Oxford wasn't built in a day. We say Rome, right? And the two messages there was that while Rome wasn't built in a day, they were building it every day, brick by brick, hour by hour, which is what I would say that we're doing, building a path forward from where we started. And they built it with a view of a long term, of a city that is still something that we aspire to be today, as opposed to building the city that they would need at the time it would have been completed. And so I was trying to signal the message that while we have to stay the course and keep laying the path, we have to be laying a path toward this aspiration that we know we can get to in the long term.
So let's talk about laying that path. You've told CMSD staff that there will be no new initiatives this year and that the focus will be on strengthening central office's support for autonomous schools. Probably sounds like some jargon, but if you could explain what that means and why it's so important.
Well, to simplify the jargon, I would say that I believe families choose the schools they want. The school should be empowered to educate the children that they have, and the district should support the schools in doing that. And so I shared with the district personnel that we have to have no new initiatives, but really let schools dig into these report cards like we've just been talking about, make those tweaks and adjustments, and stay the course to deliver better results for kids, because schools educate kids. That what we have to do over the course of this year is really think about our support systems so that as we deepen learning and teaching for kids, that aspirational Rome image, right, that we are taking the time to build the supports that schools will need in order to do that really well. So my message is essentially the same message as the community message, is that, you know, we have to make sure our schools can stay focused and clear, making slight adjustments based on what we learned in the report card, and that the district has to be really thinking about how to help those schools do it in a much more intentional way, in a way that meets the school where they are. Not every school is the same, and so different supports may be needed at one school compared to another. How are we prepared to do that?
Many in the community are waiting to learn whether Cleveland will become the 4th affiliate of Say Yes to Education, helping the community to provide college scholarships that align with services to help students stay on track to graduation. So where does Cleveland stand in that effort? And feel free to give a little bit more information about what Say Yes to Education is as well.
Yeah, well, first I'm going to push back on whether we will. It's when we will. We're going to. And we're really making progress. Our Board of Education is now considering the cross-collaborative governance agreement, so that's very public and out there. The executive director position for the Say Yes office here in Cleveland has been posted, and so we're looking for candidates who are interested in it. Those are all real signs that we are getting close to being the 4th Say Yes city here in Cleveland. What is it? It's essentially community wraparounds like we've done in many of our schools already, citywide, on steroids for every kid and every family for any need that they have. Now that's very aspirational and it builds over time, but that's the aspiration of Say Yes, is meeting a kid and family where they are, removing barriers, providing support so that they can move through their education. When they do, then giving them a college scholarship to any public 2- or 4-year college in Ohio, plus a handful of, or about 100 private schools across the country, and that also includes vocational training opportunities. So really excited about it. I've said in my State of the Schools, we must get this accomplished yet this calendar year before the winter holidays so that we can actually be implementing it very publicly in the second semester.
Wow, well, that would be a nice new year way to start things off. We also want to use this time for you to speak openly about topics that are on your mind right now. Is there something that you want to stress to the public or any message for the community?
Well, there are a few things that I really need our community to be focusing on, particularly for our high school students. Ohio has new, very rigorous graduation requirements, and I need our students and families to really be educated about what those are, making sure that their students are getting the supports needed to pass those state tests, and to make sure that our students are also still doing service projects and still doing, end of course, demonstrations so that we have every pathway available to make sure that our scholars graduate on time. And so really making sure that particularly our high school families are focused on that is going to be really critically important. Also, as we back into the middle grades, we last year expanded our True to You mentoring program to every single 8th grader in the city. That's a program that pairs 2 adults with every 12 8th graders citywide. And so we're in year 2 of that full implementation and are still looking for people who want to be mentors once a month for about a half a day in our 8th grade classrooms. And remember, you do it 2 adults to 12 kids, so it's not, I don't have to know how to handle 6 kids and not a teacher. We get to do it together. Really fun and exciting. And still looking for mentors there. And then just on the tactical side, last spring we announced that we were suspending our construction program while we worked a problem with the state and revisited the construction plan based on our Bond Accountability Commission's recommendation. So we are actively preparing to return to the community and gather feedback with a fact base that we've been building about our current state and our future projections, about the financial implications, about the right size of the footprint, and how it influences the Cleveland Plan and our academic goals. And so community members, as we go into the second quarter of this year, and particularly the third quarter, should be prepared to really weigh in and let us know what's on their minds so that when we announce the final planning, which is anticipated for April, people feel like they really had an opportunity to have their voice heard.
Excellent. Well, anything else you want to share with us today? All of those are important updates, of course.
Well, and so those are the big picture things, but the way we get this done is brick by brick. hour by hour, and that means making sure our kids are in school every day, part of our Get to School You Can Make It campaign, making sure that our parents are engaged at parent conferences. We have first quarter grade card pickups planned here in the next week, making sure that every educator is staying focused on those few key things. And so the issue here isn't can we get there, it's about what are we doing every day to make that path come true.
Excellent. Well, we look forward to next time that you're in here for even more progress and updates on how the district is doing, what the year will look like ahead.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you. Well, in the meantime, if you want to ask a question to the CEO, you can email newstips@clevelandmetroschools.org, and you might just see it here on the next episode. And of course, you can always follow CEO Gordon on Twitter at @EricGordon_CEO. And for more programming like this, make sure to visit the CMSD News Bureau website at clevelandmetroschools.org/news. We'll see you next time.